I'm in the Viva booth. Thank you, Viva, for even allowing me to be here and meet fellow site owners. I met a couple. We're already going to start exchanging study leads, so hopefully you're one. We can start doing that too, collaborate. Alicia from Skylight
Health Research.
And you got a unique situation because you live in Canada.
I do.
And your sites are in the U.S.
Yes.
Can you talk about the sites, where they're located, what they do, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how you manage it all.
Absolutely. So again, from Canada, just outside of Toronto, I have 3 locations in the US, one in Burlington, Massachusetts. That was my very first site that launched, one in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and then one in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Both my Burlington and Colorado Springs sites are completely standalone research. We're not integrated with any clinics. We have a very large database of patients who love to do research with us. My Harrisburg, Pennsylvania site is a little bit different. I'm actually integrated with a primary and urgent care clinic that came from a prior relationship before Skylight Health Research became its own legal entity.
Wow. What made you want to start a site? Like, when did you start the first site?
Skylight Health Research was actually born out of a large primary care group called Skylight. I'm going to leave that off. It was born out of a large primary care group that owned, I think, about 30 clinics in the United States. There was a small corporate team in Canada that I was part of. As part of the primary care organization, I was brought on to start the clinical research department, really with the goal of making research more accessible for our patients and our providers and giving them an opportunity to participate in research. We all know how few providers actually participate in clinical research. So my goal was to make it digestible, make it easy by centralizing all of our infrastructure. And then back last year, just in early 2023, I actually bought out my department and separated into a standalone company, which is how, as a Canadian, I came to own a company that operates out of the United States.
Makes sense, because when I first heard it, I'm like, why would you start that way? You know, you try to eliminate risk up front, and to me, it sounds risky, but it sounds like you're well beyond that point now.
Yes, it was a big risk when I went independent last year, but very rewarding to date. And I mean, I needed to go for it. I needed to bet on myself and whether or not I could do it. And I mean, we're more than a year in and we're still doing it.
Congrats. What gave you that confidence? Like, you know what, I can do this?
Blind delusion.
Really?
Yes.
Any research experience beforehand?
All my background is in research. It's the business that I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I've been in research my whole career.
Oh, okay. As a CRC or?
I've done it all.
Everything.
So I started in university with one of my professors as a research assistant. From there, I got a job right finishing my bachelor's degree with a small CRO in Canada, specializing in orthopedic research.
Wow.
After that CRO, I went on and did my master's degree in health research methodology. So I have a bachelor's and a master of science. And then I worked at McMaster University, which is a very, very large research hub in Canada, again, in orthopedic trauma surgery. So it was investigator-initiated academic research. And I think it's where I really found that passion for, this is so cool, look at these questions that we can answer when we're all collaborating.
Yeah.
And then I went into industry again, which is how I found myself here.
And now you're definitely in industry.
And now I'm definitely in industry.
Can't get more industry than that. And I love meeting, this is one of the reasons why I like coming to events like this, is meeting fellow site owners and networking and collaborating. What do you think the state of the industry is currently? There's, CROs laying off staff, protocols getting more complex, technology kind of being available. What are your thoughts on this?
I think the industry, it's changed so drastically from where I was, especially seeing the difference between how we were operating in academia, which for me was probably about 8 years ago, to how it's operating now, even the pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. I was just building my department during the pandemic, which I was growing a business within the pandemic, and I think it gave us a little bit of a leg up. One of our first trials was a COVID trial that we were able to do at one of our sites, but it's a rocky industry no matter what. It's always up and down. You never know when studies are going to get almost to launching, and then they're going to essentially capsize and be pulled right out from underneath you. But it's hard to summarize what's going on in the industry right now because I don't think anybody actually could. I think it's picking up a little bit more this year. I'm seeing massive trends in trials in women's health. I don't think I've ever seen so many opportunities within women's health, which is an industry or an area that I'm very passionately trying to get into as a women-owned, women-led business, is something that I really want to see. And I mean, within the technology, I think it's going to continue to improve. I mean, we're obviously standing at the Viva booth, and I'm a very big fan of Viva. I've implemented it. I've had it implemented for, I think, over a year now, and it's changed our operations. But what I want to see within the industry is paring down the number of technologies that you're using for each site, because sometimes I've got 6 different platforms that I'm using for a single study, and there's never a nice succinct summary to say, hey, you're using this for this and this for this, and it's hard to stay on top of, and it's hard to know from one trial to the next what you're leveraging.
Site Vault, it sounds like it's integral to your operations.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think I would have made it through 2023 without having an EISF. And I mean, I'm not saying that because I'm standing in Viva's booth. I'm saying that because we implemented it and it completely changed our operations.
At all 3 of your sites?
At all 3 of our sites, yeah. Everything now automatically goes onto Viva as an EISF. Monitors get access to it, and it also keeps them out of my clinics because they're happy to monitor remotely. And it keeps things a little bit simpler for us. And we recently went through an audit at one of my sites, which I really enjoyed because I found it was a fantastic learning opportunity for us. But even the auditor mentioned having everything on Viva made her life so much easier.
FDA audit or was it?
No, it was a sponsor audit.
Okay. I talked to the FDA earlier.
I'd be happy not to have the FDA at any of my sites.
Yeah, me too. Okay, what about source? How do you manage your source at the site?
We're still on paper source. I haven't made the transition to eSource. I have utilized eSource through other trial management organizations, which I don't mind it at all, but really right now we're using paper source. It's uploaded as a certified copy to Viva, and it allows us to make those quick corrections when we need to. It also allows me to leverage my remote staff. I like to onboard staff from multiple locations for a single trial. So if one of my sites is very, very busy, I can have remote staff help them with uploading that source, with entering the data, with resolving queries remotely so that my staff on the ground can focus.
Yeah, I had another site here today. We use Creo, my sites, but I had another site I was interviewing here. They use paper source and they upload everything to Site Vault as well. So that takes care of the remote monitoring right there. And they did that because of COVID. They were forced to find a solution.
Exactly.
Interesting. What about BizDev, getting studies? How what do you do to get studies? Are you using things like Inato or clinicaltrials.gov or? We
use Inato. My director of research loves to scour clinicaltrials.gov constantly. It's one of her favorite pastimes, is sending me all of the different opportunities. I mean, we have other trial management organizations that we work with as well, so we have a clear pipeline through that. And some of my PIs actually will direct sponsors who they work with to us to run trials out of there. So that's been really successful. And
you're like the medical science liaisons from the sponsors?
Yeah, and they have relationships with some of these sponsors to say, hey, this is a great opportunity for them and for us as the site. So we've had a couple acquisitions or a couple awards through that as well. And then also just clients coming back to us. We've had sponsors who have come back to us to say, yep, we've got another one. Do you want to work on this one with us as well?
Repeat business. Now, you said 2 of your sites, 2 of the 3 are the same company, or all 3 are?
All 3 are under the same company. Okay. One of them is integrated within another clinic, but all of them fall under my legal entity.
Do you find that sponsors, like when you approach them, do you typically find like one site is more like the magnet, and then you try to like convince them to give you the same study at the other 2 sites, or?
Yes, absolutely. That's what happens, because I have my Burlington site is absolutely my busiest. They've done the most amount of work. That's the Massachusetts site, which I always say I don't understand how we've been so successful in that hub, which has so much research. It is just such a hub of research and pharma there, but we've made it work, and I think because we can do it a little bit more efficient, we're not getting stuck in that 8-month trial startup like hospitals and academic centers do. We can go a little bit faster than that.
One of them does a 1-year startup for. That's crazy.
And I can work quite a bit faster, but still having the patients coming from Boston, because we're not that far outside of Boston. But often I get in the door with my Burlington site, and then I can leverage what we can do, because I like to try and make things efficient for our CROs and sponsors as well, because of how small we are with 3 sites and being so new, not necessarily to the industry, but new as a company. I can leverage to give them 3 different locations under a single budget, a single contract, and then a single regulatory person, which is still me.
You're giving me a lot of ideas because my site, Yuma, Arizona, it's 3 years, just about 3 years old. It's a really good location, underserved. I don't want to live there very long, and as you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, medical science liaison, most of the time they just want a Zoom call.
Yes.
Like you don't have to be there in person.
No.
You're there in person for the sales rep. So as long as you have somebody knowing when the sales reps are coming, hey, make sure I can talk to your MSL. Here's Alicia's email. Dear Alicia, please meet, and then you can take it over from there, right?
Exactly.
Is that similar to what you do?
Yeah, and even with my staff, I mean, I'm a click away and they're on video with me. I have staff who it feels like I've met them in person who I haven't met in person yet because we talk all the time. I mean, technology
What do you use,
allows me
to communicate, Slack or something?
Teams. We're all Microsoft.
Okay. So Teams, so you have the chat going.
Oh, the research chat blows up all day. I've got my full team in a single chat, and then I have separate chats for the sites and for study-specific chats as well, so that anybody who's on any particular study, we keep a chat separate so that we're not blowing up our whole chat. But I mean, it's fun, and sometimes the staff, it gets a little bit silly. We get a little bit jokey in that chat, and it makes us all feel very connected, despite the fact that we're in 4 different locations with me in Canada and then 3 different states.
And I feel like it would bring some cohesion between the sites that don't really know each other.
They all know each other. I've got some that they'll fight a little bit like brothers and sisters almost. They get a little bit sassy with each other.
And if they share the same studies, they can actually help each other out.
Absolutely. Right? It helps for a lot of collaboration. And
Alicia, you're a genius. This is making a lot of sense right now.
It's so awesome. And even when I have a study that launches in 2 different locations, let's say, I will cross onboard staff so that, again, if I have staff who are struggling or they're really busy on site and they need help with query resolution or data entry, I'll have other staff pick up, and I'll have other staff calling and scheduling patients so that I'm leveraging all my staff. So I don't have some staff in one clinic who maybe aren't that busy twiddling their thumbs while I've got other staff who are just completely overrun. We're small and we stay efficient by leveraging everything that we have really through technology.
So like you mean to say, okay, Massachusetts site, you're not that busy right now, just hypothetical.
Yep.
You're not that busy right now. Colorado Springs has been enrolling a lot. I want you entering data for them?
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
that?
They'll get it up on Viva, we'll see the source, and then my other staff will enter that data.
And is it like a daily request? Like this can change, like next week we can do something else?
Yep.
I'm telling you guys what to do.
Exactly. And a lot of the time they'll just collaborate amongst themselves. They know what has to get done, and they know that they can just reach out and ask for help. It's same with patient scheduling and screening. There's so much pre-screening that goes into all of our trials.
I'm getting a lot of ideas. What about CTMS? How do you manage finances? Do you do it all by hand? Or?
No, I just adopted a CTMS, and
Which one?
Real time.
Real time, okay.
Yeah, just earlier this year. That was a process to get it implemented. It's a lot. It's a massive system, and it can do so much. But getting that implemented, again, I found thousands of dollars with doing a full financial reconciliation. And again, because I have that multi-site functionality, it allows me to make sure that everybody is keyed in. All of my pre-screening questions are populated in there with the script so that I can have anybody at any of my sites jump in. If a patient calls and they get passed along to one of my other sites, somebody can go into real time, know what they have to do, go into that patient's profile and pre-screen them with a script that's already loaded, as long as, of course, they're on the delegation
We've got a
log.
lot more to discuss. This is like the Oscars where they turn the music on, to wrap you up. We got to do a part 2.
Absolutely.
I think we need to collaborate because you've given me a lot of ideas.
I would love to talk more. I'm all about collaboration over competition. There's room for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Alicia. I really
It was a
appreciate
pleasure.
it.